entrepreneurship has become the talk of the day. Everyone talks about entrepreneurship. What exactly is entrepreneurship? Who should be an entrepreneur? What does it mean being an entrepreneur? How are people living their lives as entrepreneurs? This is the discussion of the day today. We are celebrating African entrepreneurs. We are celebrating African youths that have taken the step to contribute to the GDP of Africa. People that have been doing things out there to create jobs, to create employment, to create wealth for their families, to create legacies, are the people that have joined us today. We are joined today on the panel. We have got Zonaka joining us from Lephalale, South Africa. Also joining us, we've got Owen and Tryphon joining us all the way from East London. Hi, guys. And we've got Onai and Eve joining us from Port Elizabeth, Ebai. And of course, my name is Stanford, as you all know. Now, guys, let's start with just understanding what you guys do. Onai and Tryphon, I have seen a lot of businesses from a couple of years that I've known you guys. You know, you have done so many enterprises, and at times I lose count of exactly, you know, what enterprises you're currently running. Can you just introduce yourselves and tell us, you know, what you guys do?
All right. Thank you for this platform, Stan, and a good day to everyone. My name is Owen, and with me here is my wife, Tryphon. I'm a legal professional and an entrepreneur. So I'm involved in running an immigration company and a transport company and other enterprises that I may not list all of them today. And I've got my wife here also, Tryphon, and she's going to introduce herself and what venture is she into as well.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be on this panel. My name is Tryphon, the wife on but I also run side hustle. We do provide vegetables and fruits, fresh produce from the farm. I'm interested, I'm excited to be on this panel, to learn a lot and share ideas. Thank you, and I'm looking forward.
Great stuff. Thank you. We'll come to exactly how you guys balance this, because from what I've heard, I heard people have got certain other jobs and professions and so many businesses. How do you make it work? I myself always wonder, how can I get extra hours in my days? But we'll come back to that. Zonaka.
Okay, thanks, Stanford, for the opportunity and for having us here. Greetings to everyone watching and to all the panelists. By name, I'm Zonaka Mohale. I'm joining today from Lephalale. My journey in entrepreneurship started in 2015 when we were in demolitions and construction and earthworks. But at the moment here today, I'm here because of Zonaka Books, which is primarily a company that sells secondhand books. And we've got a bias towards books written by Africans and about Africa. Thanks.
Great stuff. And then last but not least, we'll come to you, Ona and Eve.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eve Chiambukira. I'm a passionate hairdresser. I'm currently running a business in Port Elizabeth. I'm running a successful salon, hairdressing. I'm doing hairdressing, and also part-time doing the cakes with Telbok, the company being run by my husband, Liberty. I'm happy to be part of the show, and thank you so much for inviting us.
My name is Liberty or Onai Chiambukira, and I am an events planner together as well as a confectioner. So we have got our company that we started about 4 years ago, and it was just out of desperation when I was jobless, and then later on found my passion. But we are running a company that does events, and we do cakes. And together with my wife, we also have got a salon. So that's what we are doing roughly.
That's great. And let's maybe, I find this just, like the comment I made with Owen and Tryfin earlier about how you guys manage to balance so many things. And But let's start with you, Onai and Eve. You talk about you went in to talk about how you get to start, these businesses. How did you get to start businesses? How do because there's so many people who say, I want to start, I want to start. When is the right time, and how do you decide? How did you guys manage to do that?
Mm. I can say that the right time to start is when you want to do something, and this has to come from within. You have to love it, because if you don't love it, that's when you find out that along the way you get tired of it, or you just you lose the energy. So I would say when you love it, when you've got the passion for something, you go for it. There's no, we can't say there's a time, but when you love something, you've got the passion for it, you go for it.
Stanley, as for myself, there's a lot of let me say there's a lot of avenues on how people can start to do something. But what I'm very sure about is most people don't start because um, they procrastinate. Now, when you don't have pressure, you don't change. When you don't have pressure, you don't apply the systems that you're supposed to apply. So, like what I've just said before, for me to start to do cakes and for me to start to do events, it was out of desperation. It was out of desperation. I had worked at a company where I'd worked from 2011 up until 2014. I was not fired. I actually started working there as just a normal machine operator. And during the 4 years, I rose through the ranks. I became a quality inspector. I became a supervisor. I became an overall supervisor. And I just decided that I need to quit because I felt that was the time for me to start my business. So when I left my work where I was working, I stayed for almost about 2 years doing nothing. So the desperation kept on kicking in every time until I started something because there was no other option. I had to try. I tried a lot of avenues, I tried a lot of businesses to do. With my education that was very low, but I had to do something. And then I started doing something. I enjoyed doing it, and I'm running it, and I'm making a little money out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the interesting part, I think, of you can find that already within the same household, people speak of the different ways in which they get into business and think of business and make business decisions. You can see those differences. Is it the same with you? Owen and Tryfin. Your journey in terms of this. How did you get into it? Is it also the same story between the two of you, or how did you come about it?
Well, you talk as well, but I think for entrepreneurship, it's something that I believed in for years back. Before university, I was already an entrepreneur. When I opened my first business in Johannesburg, and throughout my university, I think you can testify to that. That throughout university, I was doing a law degree, but I was running an IT business. It was just the desire, to pursue a dream into something. But I can safely say that I've always believed in entrepreneurship because I believe in executing an idea, and I'm not limited to my profession. anything that I understand the demand, that I understand the solution, I can turn it into a business. So it's a very exciting journey, especially when you understand the background of what you are getting into. So yeah, at first I used to say, this is what I do because this is my career. This is my legal career. I'm enjoying immigration.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, you realize that anytime there is an opportunity to provide a solution, it becomes a business. And I've always seized the opportunity.
And for me, I will not lie and say that I was always an entrepreneur. I was one of those people who would say, I don't like business. I will not dwell in business. But many getting right makes me inspired me and it pushes
I'll
me
just
along.
ask you, Tryfin, to speak a bit louder. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, so I was saying, I was one of the people who would say, I'm not into business. I'm not good at it. You know, I never believed that I would actually run a business. But I got inspired in seeing other people doing a lot of things on top of being employed. I started having this desire to start something on the side. So for me, it was more of inspiration and actually seeing people doing it, and I actually was inspired. So it was more of stepping out of my comfort zone because I was very comfortable with my job and everything was here for salary from month to month. But if there is anything we can learn from this pandemic is that you cannot rely on your job. You cannot rely on one source of income. So that's really what pushed me to start something on the side. And our business, the fresh cut, which is the one that provides vegetables and fruit, we actually started it during the pandemic. So it was an opportunity that we saw, okay, we can start an online business and provide these services. And then we started. So it was just the timing.
Wow. And this is I will come back to the point that you raised because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and starting a new business. That's actually quite phenomenal because a lot of people currently have lost jobs. A lot of people are crying. A lot of people, have lost incomes and they're stuck. But you are talking about, although you have a job, in the pandemic, you identified, opportunities and you went into starting a business. Can you give a bit more maybe context of that? Because I think this is a very, important and interesting point that many people would want to hear.
Okay, so in April, when we had hard lockdown, where everyone was to stay at home and we were only allowed to do groceries, there are a lot of people I can just mention the few groups. I can talk of senior citizens. I can talk of new mothers with young babies. They were not eager to even go for groceries, you understand? So we saw an opportunity to actually provide a service where we would provide fruit and vegetables. Why fruit and vegetables? Because those are the main supplies that we can buy groceries for every month and every house. But vegetables and fruits, they are perishable. You cannot really buy fruits and vegetables for the whole month. So, people need consistent supply of these items. So we said, okay, let's provide this service where we actually create an online shop. People order their vegetables and we deliver to them. Obviously, putting on precautions, obviously, with the pandemic going on, measures to not spread the virus and stuff. So that's how we actually came about with this idea. And it was really appreciated by a lot of people, even the senior citizens, mothers, even anyone. People are really scared to go out there. So that's where we just jumped in and we were happy to, help and provide the service.
Wow. Now this is really really a great story, and the fact that you started it, I have seen, obviously based on social media, how it has been growing. Obviously from a distance, it's really really
And then I
phenomenal.
remember as well at the time when you started when she started the fresh cut business. I was one of the first volunteers into the business. We are actually, packing the product. I was also the first driver for the business. Yeah.
Wow, this speaks about also this issue of how we
Yeah, it's obviously probably because
Okay, no, I think it cut there. But Zonaka, let's come to you. The decision to do Zonaka Books. I know you as a passionate person about African issues. From when I first met you in 2009, can't believe it's 11 years ago. You were
Time
always
flies.
someone who was running with Black consciousness, and having that awareness with you about issues to do with Africans and Africa, and how, and Zonaka Books seems to take that direction as well. That's your focus. How did you make the decision to get into entrepreneurship?
Okay, thanks, Stanford, for the opportunity. Getting into entrepreneurship in general, it's a journey that I started in 2013 with a company that I later ran for about 2 years. It was involving demolitions and earthworks. But by then I was relatively younger, and you just had this excitement of saying that you want to get into business. You're very idealistic. You're just happy to be to have a name associated to a company. And we got into business, and obviously it was a trial and error time. We learned a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons that I carried forward and I use now, or in fact I use as a basis to enter and start Zonaka Books, is that for me, the primary variables, in fact, let me just say that there's a lot of variables that go into starting a business. Some of them I think are common throughout the business, throughout sectors, and some I think are business specific. But the ones that are general and apply to all the businesses, I think it's a plan. You must, as a start, have a plan and put timelines to those plans, which is something that I myself in 2013 neglected very well. I just thought, no, everything will fall into place as time goes on. Have a plan. This is what I want to achieve when I start. This is what I want to achieve midterm and even in the long term. So if you've got a plan, timeline, and minimum resources that are needed for the kind of business that you're going to start, you can start a business. Coming to Zonaka Books, when we started it, I'm very active on social media and I'm a fervent reader. And because of that, obviously, I follow a lot of people who themselves are writers and are readers. I follow book clubs. And I noticed that there's a yearn from African people to seek knowledge. They want to read. But the biggest stumbling block was that books are expensive, and that is a reality. And so majority of them were conversing about the issue of getting second-hand books. But there seemed to be a problem that they didn't know how and where to get the second-hand books. I myself personally have a library which has close to 1,000 books. So
Wow.
majority of the books that I have in my personal library, I accumulated over the past 10 years. And I didn't just accumulate them. I mean, I had a systematic way and a methodical way of collecting second-hand books. So it's a skill that I've gained over the years. So I decided to say, okay, people want second-hand books because they want to read, but they don't know how and where to get these books. I've got that skill, then why don't I close that gap? And I'm also passionate about books. And so I think as well, if you combine everything with passion, you will succeed in business or in entrepreneurship, as you put it, Stanford.
Wow, this is interesting, guys, and I think to people even joining us online, the difference in the stories of how one comes up to a decision of starting a business. But I must say, part of the issue that that we always try to be consistent about is engagement on Baobab chats, and there's one main issue that is making noise on social media, guys. Everyone is talking about capital. The question started with Gabriel on social media. A lot of people have commented on to say, when you started your businesses, did you need money? Some were asking directly, how did you raise money? What did you do? How do you answer the money question? We can start with you, Owen, and maybe and Trifin, and we'll come to you, Onai, and if. But how did you address the money issue? Because I think we can't continue this conversation with this elephant in the room because it's making so much noise.
From my experience, I can safely say that
Yes.
the knowledge, before we even talk about the money, is the knowledge. Because most of the time, I've realized that people, they believe that not having the financial capital is the barrier to actually start a business. But you realize they don't even have a plan. They don't even have an idea. So firstly, the biggest capital you need is the idea and the know-how. And then now, once you have that, start with what you have. You don't have to accumulate a big loan, borrow a lump sum of an amount. Start with where you are. If you want to operate a business that needs rental space, don't go for the big spaces. That's going to cost you a lot of money. Start from where you are. There is an office space where you can spend 1,000 rand. There is an office space where you can spend 2,000 rand. There is an office space according to your capacity where you can spend 6,000, and the list goes forward. So firstly, look at where you are. Sometimes you don't even need an office space. There's what entering into. Start working from home. Start working from home.
Yes.
You cut out yourself. Sometimes you don't even need staff to start with, because I'm talking of where does the capital, where is it required. Sometimes you don't even need the staff. You can be the only one employee for the business, and then see where it starts. If you have the capacity to have more people, then of course it depends on your financial needs. So
I,
I would advise
I,
that let capital be a barrier. Start with what you have. What you have actually is a starting point. If you have 100 grand, it's a starting point. If whatever you have, it can start something. You don't
Yeah,
need
you
a
can
just
jump in, Jonaka.
I just want to add to that and emphasize that issue of office space. I mean, I've run businesses for the past 7 to 8 years, and I've never had an office. I mean, I've always ran businesses from restaurants, from home as well. I mean, you get into a restaurant, you sit, you get a workspace, you send email, you have coffee, you have tea. So, I mean, an office space is not supposed to be an excuse. And there's tax benefit of working from home as well. You're able to get tax rebates just by working from home. And maybe I want to use a practical example as well that I've been involved in as well. In terms of construction, for instance, you don't need to have the equipment if you want to get into construction in order to get into that business. You get a contract. There's people who hire out machines. You go and show them. You must be frank with them. You go and show them and say, fellows, I've got this contract, but I don't have machines. But look at the payment terms. I'm gonna get paid in so and so timelines. So I need you for us to sign an agreement. You give me a bobcat, you give me a TLB, and I go and work, and then I'm gonna be able to repay you on these terms. So yes, capital is an issue, but there's ways to be creative about it and to circumvent it. I mean, with the minimum resources that you have, you're able to start something. And I mean, sometimes we need capital in order to start big. You don't have to start big. Sometimes we need capital because we want to start, let's say, for example, a factory which is mechanized. Start with a manual-based factory then, and then as you accumulate capital, then you can progress and become more mechanized.
Yeah, in actually echoing your point, Roy on social media says, hunger is the most important capital. You can work around the financial capital needs.
Yes, everything starts in the mind.
Hungry.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Stanley,
yes,
let me come in there. Let me come in there. My story is I didn't have any capital. I didn't have the resources. I was broke. I was at home. The person who was working was my wife, because she had started working in a salon since 2012. When she came to PE, that's when we got married. So when she came here, she was working in a salon. And when I left work, I was the money that I got. I'm going to be very open with you. I got money that was less than 50,000 when I left where I was working, and we took that money we bought a container for her to be permanent there. And all the other monies, we tried to do little businesses around, but they did not work out. And at times you'd sit home and then you start to think, so how is my life going to be when the wife is the only person that is going to work, and it's 2 years now, you don't have income, you are also going to the salon. That's where I started to do plating. I also know how to plate. I also how to do wash. I also know how to do a lot of things in the salon. That 2-year period trained me a lot of things. But then going to the cake business, I saw someone was asking, how did I start my cake business? We were going for a gym in Blue Water Bay, and because I like sweet things, I started encouraging my wife to start to bake sweet things, because I love baking. I love eating sweet things, and she got someone there that she started getting lessons from, but I wasn't involved in that. But the time that I got involved is when I realized that, no, let me get in. It may not be only the women business. Since I'm sitting at home, let me just look over the pots when they are busy baking. And I started to get myself involved. The first day that we started baking with that lady is the first day that I went on WhatsApp and I started advertising, and I said, we now make cakes. So the first cake that we got from that lady, we put it on status. We said we are doing cakes. That's how we started getting orders. But it was not easy. It was not easy, but I had to start something running. So I had no capital. I had nothing. And I want to tell you that when you've got the passion for something, in as much as you have got setbacks, a lot of them, there's still some fire inside you. There's still some hope that will keep you going, because you know that one day you are going to get there. I'm telling you, for the past 4 years up until now, we started to see the green light of baking cakes only late last year up until now.
My journey also,
yep.
From what Liberty was saying, 2012, I remember 2012 when we started the salon. There was no capital. The salary from Liberty's work is the one that was paying the salon. So I just want to encourage someone who's saying, I don't have capital. But we worked for the whole year trying to make this business of the salon to grow and grow until we could manage to pay our own rent in the salon. So this is how I also started in terms of the capital, the salon side.
Wow.
Maybe just to round it up before you come in there, Stanford, just to round it up, just to add something. I think another thing that we neglect as Africans is the issue of pooling resources in order to circumvent this issue that we have with capital. I mean, if we know that we are unable to meet certain capital requirements as individuals, it might be that if we pool resources, we are able to meet those capital requirements. It's something that we must explore, I think, going forward as Africans.
And that's, I actually wanted to come in with that, Azonaka. Thank you for starting that point. I remember when the few ventures that I ventured into before, one of the avenues I've used personally is friends, pulling resources from friends and relatives. Okay, mainly friends, because with the relatives it can get tricky. But when you have a circle of people around you and you develop a trust and you develop good relations with people, people also can borrow you money, because let's be honest with each other. At times you can go to the bank, but most of us, we don't have the collateral to give to the bank. The bank will not even give you 50 rand for an overdraft. But by calling Owen and say, Owen, I want to go and buy, a box of oranges. Can you help me out? Based on the relationship that I've carried with Owen over time, Owen can be comfortable enough at least to know that Stan will give it back. But at times we also get stuck because when it comes to giving it back there, we are not always that fluid with that. The way we are so nice when asking is not always the way we are nice when it comes to retaining. But we'll start with you. We'll start with you, Tryfin. marketing. We just want to quickly speak about marketing. How do you market your business? We'll just maybe speak with you, Tryphene, and then Eve, just on marketing. How do you guys market the businesses? Because someone was even asking, how do you market?
It's actually easy to market businesses. I mean, there's many online platforms. You don't even have to pay to post and market the business. So you can use all your online platforms, WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, marketing, and still go the old-fashioned way to print flyers, put them in strategic places, and being consistent with the marketing as well. Because you realize that it really does not come from. You have to actually come up with ideas. Try new things. Don't just get stuck on one method that you've used for 10 years. I mean, come with new ideas, and that suits people, that attracts people, and keep on doing what people doing, keep on talking. Don't just do one off, keep on doing it. So yeah, marketing is very important. It's very important to successful business. And actually also providing packaging projects is also marketing as well. Because once you send, so naturally you provide satisfaction to customers, to retain those old customers and also keep the business. So I think that's what I'm doing.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, Eve?
To me, marketing, when we're looking at the type of business that I'm doing, I believe my service to my clients is my major marketing strategy. When I do one client, if
Wow, when you're having fun, it seems like Eve was sabotaged, and she was talking about, the word of mouth in terms of
Yes.
the service that she offers. It sells itself, and for
Maybe.
hair field, it's really a specific one that is applicable. A salon, you do one person's hair, and that person speaks to another person who speaks to another person, and they say this looks good, and they pass on. And it's interesting how so many people who can do hair would complain and say, I can't market. So from what I'm hearing from Eve as well, it's about part of marketing is perfecting your skill
Yes.
and doing a good job. Yeah.
I can relate to that, Stanford. Word of mouth is powerful and we shouldn't ignore it. And that is why each and every time we offer our services to each and every client, be it big or small, I mean, you should always give it your all. Always make sure that your work is associated with professionalism. Because I myself as well, I mean, with books, I mean, I've had customers come to me and say, Zonaka, I want this book, maybe in terms of rare and out of print books that someone had bought from me. They said, no, Zonaka, this person said he got this book from you. Can you also source it for me? You see, so word of mouth is also a very powerful tool for me over and above social media. Those are the two forms of marketing that I use. Social media, you cannot ignore these days. So for me, Facebook and WhatsApp, I mean, I use frequently, and it has done wonders for my business.
Wow, that's great. Now let's look into another, very crucial aspect when it comes to entrepreneurship and businesses. Many of us, like now we spoke about we're in COVID-19. People say there are no opportunities. People say, you need to know a government official to get a tender, or you need to know. How do you guys go about identifying opportunities? Zonaka, you were talking about you did construction, you did garbage removal, you did demolition, you did all those. And Owen, I've seen Owen do so many, like he said, over the years, and you mentioned many. How do you identify opportunities? Because these are the realities. People are wondering. People don't know how to identify the opportunities. How do you see that this is an opportunity that I can run a business that can be profitable on? We can start with you, Zonaka. How do you go about that and come to your own?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it has to do with paying attention to detail and obviously conversing with people, marketing yourself, uh, and also, I mean, knowing your capabilities. I mean, if for instance you keep on hearing people complaining about certain things, and then you know that you've got the skills and you've been doing such things for quite some time, then you ask yourself, but why can't I do it? I'll give you a practical example as well. I mean, for me to get into demolition and earthworks and all those kind of things, I'm a quantity surveyor. I'm an estimator as well, so I do a lot of estimating. And so a lot of people who own construction companies used to come to me with bills of quantities. I mean, I used to have piles and piles of bills of quantities on a daily basis at my place, waiting to be priced. So people were doing construction, but they didn't know how to price. They came to me for pricing. I said, but I can price. So if I can price, why don't I get these bills of quantities, start my own company, price for myself, and do this work?
Wow.
Yes.
Owen?
Yes, so basically, from my experience, when we talk about identifying opportunities, I'll just mention different ways. So number one, you can identify opportunity based on your skill. What I mean, the skill that you have. If you are a diesel plant fitter, which means whenever you come across issues of diesel plant fitting, you are able to provide a need. So number one, you identify opportunities based on your skill, and then number two, you also identify opportunities by being attentive. I like what Zonaka said. You have to be very attentive in the environment where you stay, in the community where you are, in the country where you are. Be very wide range, read, and understand the dynamics of the constituents where you stay. For example, I can tell you that there was a time when I ventured into immigration. How did I venture into immigration? Why did I not pursue the litigation route or whatever? The thing is, I realized that there are not many people that are providing quality service when it comes to immigration services. There are different agencies and consultants, but there is no people who are providing a quality professional service, with a powerful background. So I decided to have an interest into the field, and then I ventured. And a few years later, I'm a very big expert, not doing just people, but I'm consulting corporations, not just corporations, multinational corporations. But this just started as an idea to say, look, there is a gap from where I am. And then sometimes every crisis is an opportunity, because what is business is providing human solutions. So there must be a problem. So all the problems that we see every day, they're actually business opportunities. That's why my business is no longer limited to my skill, to what I went to school for. It is based on how to provide a solution in my community. There's a problem with water solutions in Zimbabwe. I mean, the municipality is not meeting up the demand to provide water. So as a result, everyone wants a borehole built in their house. In the farms, in the villages, people want water. What did I do? I started a borehole drilling business. I engaged people. How do you do this? How can I get a rig? How much is a rig? How can you do drilling? How much is surveying? What equipment do you need? You collaborate, you meet people, and then a few months later, you are doing a borehole drilling service. Was it what I went to school for? No, but it was a need that I saw, and I went to meet. Same with the transport business, Same with
Wow.
the Mimshak Express. The Mimshak Express, we are trying to bring an interconnected delivery system, intercity delivery
Uh,
system. Sometimes people can be busy in their offices, but in the same city, you want to deliver a parcel, we provide that service. We can take your parcel from Centon, take it to Johannesburg. From Johannesburg, we go to Midrand, intercity. While if you are in your
Wow.
office, trying to bridge the gap, we do cross-border delivery. You buy groceries here, we take it, to your country in SADC region, in Mozambique, Zimbabwe,
Wow.
or wherever. It's
Now,
about seeing the need.
wow. And what I love about this conversation when it came to this question, I really like and appreciate the value you guys brought. Because many a times when this issue of identifying opportunities is raised, there's always, online and stuff, it's always about find a need and fulfill it, find a need and fulfill it. But I like the way that it has been said in a practical way and various other ways of how one can go about that. But we want to speak about, something that usually is not seen by people. Failure. I want us to go into what you guys have done and it has failed. And why, you think it has failed and what you think you do better. Because I think this is part of the challenge that most people have. The fear to fail. The fear to say, what if I lose all my money? What if I lose all my investment? And I saw there on earlier on the comments.
Yes, my network is messing up. My network is messing around with me.
So I was just going to say, Stanford, maybe just to pick up on that issue of mistakes. I mean, for me, businesses, you're bound to make mistakes. I mean, if you really aim high, you're going to make mistakes. And it's good. I mean, it makes you to grow. And some of them are painful. I mean, I've experienced quite a number of problems that arise from the mistakes that I've made. But one of the mistakes that I always I've identified from when I started business back then was that as a business person, you've got a business account for a business. Try and make sure that your personal account is separate from your business account. Set yourself a salary. You should earn a salary. You don't go to the grocery store and now you want to buy bread, then you take out your business card and you buy bread. You see, such things should be avoided. But another thing is that we're trying to build businesses. I've seen a lot of big multinational businesses. I've had the privilege at least to go in the background and see how they operate. And I've always wondered, there's nothing impressive that those fellows are doing. I mean, sometimes you look at the big brands, some of the things that they do behind closed doors are very
Wow, we seem to be being sabotaged again. Zonaka is going into, the rich stuff and we lose him. Owen, do you want to, take the button stick?
Yes, you see, I believe the biggest risk, when it comes to business is not taking a risk. It's more risky not to take a risk because you just remain where you are. There is no room for improvement. There is no room for growth. There is no challenge, and to those people who say, what if it doesn't work? I can ask you to say, what if it works? Because you haven't tried it. So the biggest...
Owen, I hear what you're saying, but I want to come back to the point. I want to hear about where you have failed and what you have done, because you have walked a long journey of entrepreneurship. Where have you failed and what have you done, to fix that, and or what your reflections post it happening?
I think my biggest, I can say they are different, and every opportunity was an opportunity to learn and to grow. Number one, financial management. My early days of business, when I was holding cash, I did not account properly. If the money is in my hands, it's my money because this is my business. I learned it the hard way that I didn't have the knowledge when I started business then. So when the payments are made, you get a lot of cash flow. It's my money, And then at the end of the month, when you want to pay the staff, when you want to pay the cost, when you want to pay running costs, then you are now scrapping as it comes. As it comes in, you take it out. I learned that way. So I've learned financial management. The business is an independent person. It must account for its costs. It must account for its debt. And I'm also an individual separate from the business. So that was financial. And then number two.
Stanley, can I come in there?
Yes. Go ahead, Onai.
Stanley, can I come in there? Can I come in there, Stanley? Yeah, I've been going on and off. This network thing is giving me a hard time. Listen, When I just got back, you were talking about the failures that Owen went through. We had the same problem, the financial issue. But look, I don't call it a failure. It was a
Owen, you can continue.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
So it was financial management. And then number two, the biggest mistake that I had in my business was venturing into places and then you don't get the right people to do the job. So you become a jack of all trades, whereas you cannot be a jack of all trades. Get the person who can do the job and then do the job. So I learned the hard way by employing people that were not qualified. I'm talking of my early business, not even the immigration. Employing people that are not qualified enough. So at the end of the day, you get a poor service. When you get a poor service, you lose the client. And that was a big mistake because it will come to your cash flow, it will come to your to the profit, it will cut out on your profit. Get the right people that know how to do the job. As an entrepreneur, you don't need to be an omnipotent, all-rounder jack of all trades. Get the people that can do the job and remunerate them. So I learned that as well as part of my business that I have to make sure I get the person who can do the job.
now, as we wrap up, I'll give you Sonaka, and you can, your contribution. You have to tie it with this one. But I want to come to you, Tryfin, and how do you deal with the perception that because you are running a business, people expect you to have money, and they expect you to be more generous with your money? How do you deal with that? How do you handle that? How have you handled the perception of having money because you are running a business? How have you dealt with that?
Wow, that's quite actually an interesting question. Yeah, it's true. People believe that it's because you have a business, you have money. But as a business person, you have to be focused. As Owen has said and as Sonaka has said, your business is separate. It's an individual. So keep your business as a business and not mix your personal finances with the business. So you actually need to be the one who is focused and disciplined enough to educate those who think that you have money just because you are doing it. But at the end of the day, the success of the business is in your hands. So you actually have to be very wise on how you spend and then you to the world.
They say we had you got a tender.
Yeah,
You are doing this tender, so
that is actually why you business is fail. Because once you just get hold of that, you want to flash and you want to show the world that you know what this is working, you're only but it's not about that. You need to sustain the business, you need to have business. You're talking about
Yeah,
sector
and
earlier, you're talking about sector earlier on. Sector is not only about starting it, it's about starting the business and you need to sustain it with capital, you need to grow it with capital. So it is very important to understand.
wow, that's great, because I was planning also to come to Owen. I've seen him posting that he's doing business with Mercedes Benz in East London. And if people are starting to deal with such big brands, you can imagine.
Yes.
Most probably, you guys have got German cars parked at your
Let me
place.
come in there.
Onai, I'll come to you. Just
We are
wait.
talking about dealing with failures, and just before I went out, I was saying,
Onai, I'll come to you.
whatever the challenges that we went through in terms of keeping the money and trying to separate the home money and the business money and everything that would have happened during that time, I don't call it a failure, because most of the things that we are doing now, we actually
Okay, Stanford.
Okay. Yes.
The issue of problems. I mean, yes, I agree completely with the issue of finances is a big mistake. It's one of the biggest pitfalls that we fall into when we first get into business, but we learn as we go along. Another biggest failure for me, myself personally, was systems. Big businesses succeed because they've put in systems in place. In my previous life as a business person, I mean, I would get calls from people who are working for me when I'm 400 kilometers away, asking me, how do we do this? How are we supposed to complete this? I'm supposed to come back now and assist with such things. So what I learned was that when I'm not around, then the business doesn't run. and I realized that the business circulates around me, so I can't even go on holiday. And then that's when I realized that when you get into businesses, the very basic thing that you should do, and you should do constantly, is to build systems. And as a result, I tell you right now, in Zonaka books, I mean, I build manuals. I mean, for as long as I find out that a task is repetitive, I build a manual for it. I build templates for it. I build manuals on how to catalog books. I build manuals on how to raise an invoice, the whole procedure from start to end on how to procure books. I build manuals such that if I'm not around and I've got people working for me, the business should continue running. The business should not circulate around an individual. The issue, the perception obviously is that when you run a business, then you've got a lot of money. And it's not always entirely correct. And for me personally as well, with Zonaka books, is not correct. I mean, the margins with books are very little. I mean, unless if you are multinational and you're doing very big volumes. And personally, on a personal level, I just ignore that and apply my principles that obviously we will get to a stage where we are running big volumes. But when it comes from other people, obviously, all you can do is just be humble and ignore them.
Wow, that is great. You know, when having fun, time flies. We're going to, you know, parting shots. You know, as we conclude, how you advise others to deal with the effects of COVID-19 and carrying on businesses after COVID-19, as well as your parting shot. Before we do that, I will try to give Onai to speak, and Eve, because I can see he's becoming a bit emotional now. Onai and Eve, you can give all your comments and wrap up, and then we can do the parting shots. Go ahead.
Okay, Stan, when I just cut off, I was talking about marketing. I was saying one of the key aspects that I use on my marketing strategy, when I do a client, I make sure that I give the best service to that client. When she goes out there, surely she's going to bring about 5 or 10 clients, because as she is walking in the road, there.
All right. So, unfortunately, guys, what we will do, we'll make an effort to record sentiments from Onai and Eve, so that we can share their sentiments later. Unfortunately, their network has been, you know, acting very funny and being unreliable. But we will do our round of parting shots. We'll start with you, Zonaka, and then come to Owen and Trifin. How you advise others to deal with the effects of COVID-19, as well as, you know, the general message to fellow Africans.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Stanford. When we conceptualized Zonaka books, it was to generate sales primarily on two pillars. First was online. The second one was through weekend markets. Obviously, there hasn't been any markets for at least the past 120 days because of the lockdown occasioned by this pandemic. And therefore, we have had to rely solely on online sales. And therefore, we have had to re-strategize and rely on online sales. And in my view, I think even in the foreseeable future, even when the pandemic has died down a little bit, there is still going to be anxiety for contact business. So e-commerce, I think, is going to grow in the next few years. So people who are thinking into going into businesses to the extent that it is possible to offer it through e-commerce, I would advise them to do that. And maybe as well, just urge our people that we always seek support, at least from our African people. But I think as business people, we should also, to the extent possible, try and support other African people in our value chain, because you'll notice that there'll be other African people who are offering other services that you need maybe inputs from. For instance, I can give you an example with myself. I mean, I use a lot of shipping businesses to courier the books that I bought for myself. So I always try to use our African people to do that. So let's not just seek maybe support from our Black people while we are not supporting other Black businesses. So let's walk the talk. Thanks, Stan.
Wow. Thank you. Yes, Owen and Tryfin.
Yeah, my parting shot. I'll just say that the best time to start is now, and it's never late to start a business. Start from where you are with what you have, and then you can definitely achieve any greater heights that you have. And my last parting line I would like to just share with the viewers today is that first invest in yourself. Read about what you want to venture into. Most businesses fail because the entrepreneur does not have the knowledge and know-how to operate the business they are venturing into. Make sure before you spend your money, you know exactly what you are going yourself into, understand the business, understand the dynamics, and so that you can be able to deliver a quality service. And lastly, the issue of capital, start with what you have. Sometimes you don't even need to stress yourself by going to a bank to get big money. Start with the little that you have, and then you can grow from there. I don't know if something also you can add for.
Yes.
So, my parting words in light of the pandemic, I would like to just say, um, e-commerce is the way. I think it is time to understand that if your business can work online, push and invest in that more in this period that we are living in. It is not going to change very soon. But if it is not possible at all, I think it is very important as a business person or an entrepreneur to be flexible. Try to also think of other avenues that you can start that can run online. Don't just fix your mind on one thing because change is inevitable. You have to adapt to the changes. So put your online marketing, if that's not possible, think outside the box and maybe start something else on the side that you can push online.
But online is the way to go, Stan. I mean,
Online
what
is the
you're
way
saying,
to go now.
businesses are closing shops and offices and operating online. The boutiques, supermarkets are online. Stores are online. Everything is online. So, I mean, you can also move to integrate your business online.
Wow, this is great, and that's a great parting shot. And what one main thing that is coming out is that as we are in the pandemic, this is where billionaires are being made, millionaires are being made, and people who were billionaires are becoming millionaires, and some people who were millionaires are becoming nobodies. So we are in a time that requires revolutionary thinking and finding a space in which to fit yourself into. This conversation on entrepreneurship is a series. We'll be having it for the next few weeks. We have various African entrepreneurs talking about how do we move and navigate in this environment as entrepreneurs. We need a lot of us to become entrepreneurs, to become business owners, to start creating jobs. No one is going to create jobs for us. I saw Owen the other day, he posted about the government is not going to come out and rescue you. No one is going to come and rescue us. We are the ones, they say we are the saviors of ourselves that we've been waiting for. We are the future. We are the people who must drive this continent to the next, a place that it needs to get to. So it is us, through our entrepreneurial endeavors and through us thinking out of the box, millions of people, more than 500 million children in the continent, they all need to go to school and they can't go into a physical classroom. If one can find a solution to that in all small ways that we can, there's space for everyone to exist there. So there's many opportunities. We're going to be engaging on this. But thank you so much. I appreciate you all for coming through. And I appreciate for all the commenting and for joining us online, engaging on the topic. Thank you so much. Let's meet again next week. This has been great. And let's continue